Well, we're really living in interesting times. More and more people wake up to the reality of this world that we live in.
You know what I don't get? Anything. What the fuck is happening?
I miss the days when I thought that politicians actually had our best interest in mind and there were smart adults in the room. I miss the days when I didn't know about the absolute devastation that the United States has wrought on the planet through its foreign policy.
Who's done with this world? Who's done with the script? We can feel it's coming to a finale. Who is ready to check out?
The life we thought we had, it's gone. What you've been planning for and saving for and working for and dreaming for, those things are all gone and they are not coming back.
Man, I've gotten to the point where I can't talk to any of my friends anymore. I can barely even speak to my own family because everybody's still just so blind to what's going on. And then when I talk about any of it, I'm crazy. It's true. It's not hard to brainwash people. It's hard to get them to realize they've been brainwashed. They won't accept it.
You know that like they're conditioning you to think that the thoughts that you think are your own, but really they're just the thoughts that they want you to think based on the propaganda that they show you and the headline that they post. Like you know this, right? Like you know that majority of your emotionally charged ideas that you fight for on social media, pretending that the other people are your enemy, you know that that's all made up, right? Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
You know the way that you're living in the Matrix can't last forever, but you haven't really decided what your next move is. You don't have to keep faking everything. Or is it just me?
I just saw this video of this guy saying that nothing feels the same anymore. And that is exactly how I have been feeling lately. And I commented that it's because we are finally waking up. And I really cannot remember the last time that I truly felt like a feeling of joy and happiness.
We're at a crossroads, you guys. Like we're at like one of the biggest crossroads that humanity has ever experienced, at least in my lifetime, but I'm pretty sure everybody feels it. I'm not the only one. Everything's backwards, everything's upside down, everything is as it seems.
That we have been lied to since childhood about literally everything. Like everything that we thought was true, everything we were taught in school, everything we learned growing up, and everything we hear on the news, everything that people believe to be true is just not true. It's all a lie. But the question is why?
There's like a major shift going on right now, right? I don't know what the future holds for this reality and how long it has, but it's definitely crumbling. Is it just me for real? Does other people feel this shit too? Like something is coming, bro. Something is coming. And we've been de-evolving for so long, going on a down plummet. More and more ignorance, right? More disconnection.
Once your eyes are opened, you can't unsee it. Once you see that politics are only an illusion of choice to keep you under control, you can't unsee it. Once you realize that social security number that was issued to you on your birthday is your employer ID for the corporation of the United States of America, and that when you go to work to that 8 to 5 every day that drains your soul, once you learn that you've been indoctrinated to believe that the more education, the more money, the more success, the more material possessions so that you have to continue to work is all a lie to drain your soul and keep you so unfocused, you can't unsee it.
If you feel like you've been indoctrinated to be a f***ing slave, it's because it's true. If your gut is telling you that this is not what life is supposed to be, it's because it's true. Because the reality of it is, we've all been indoctrinated since kids. And a lot of you guys who have this spiritual awakening and you're seeing the Matrix for what it is, that's a good start.
I cannot be the only one that feels like everyone around you is sleepwalking and you're awake. But you can't like yell at them to wake them up and you can't shake them. But they're all about to walk off the cliff. And you're just like, should I let them walk off the cliff? Or should I shake them and try to wake them up?
Why does it seem like everybody is just crazy? I feel like I'm getting to the point that I don't even want to go out in the world anymore. Everybody's nuts. Is it just me?
I don't believe any of the bullshit we've learned in school, anything the media tells us, and anything our government tells us. None of it.
It's happening in like slow motion, but everything that we predicted would happen is happening.
Something changed all of us in 2020. The fear, the lies, the constant chaos pumped through every screen like it was oxygen. That was the year that people stopped trusting, stopped believing, stopped feeling safe, even in their own heads. And it's wild because almost 6 years later, you can still feel that shift hanging in the air. Like something snapped in 2020 and never really healed. Time doesn't even move the same anymore. It's like the world hit pause, but somehow everything got worse in slow motion. Before all that, we actually thought we had control. We thought science had the answers. We thought the media had the facts and leadership had some kind of plan. But then we watched them all contradict themselves over and over while telling us that we're the crazy one. And now we're living in the aftermath of that gaslight. Everyone's divided. Everyone's drained. Nobody believes anything anymore. So yeah, something did change in 2020, and it wasn't just the world, it was us. We woke up, and the people who built the illusion, they've been panicking ever since. Because once the curtain gets pulled back, once you see the strings, you can't pretend that you don't.
Is it just me, or does nothing feel the same anymore? I can't explain it, I really can't. Like, just nothing feels the same anymore. Holidays don't feel the same. Just nothing feels the same. Everything feels hollow. Everything feels off. Does anybody else feel like this? I know I can't be the only one that feels like this.
What the fuck's happened to this world? I don't know. Since 2020, something has seriously changed because it feels so off to me. I know you can all feel it too, because I can feel it. Okay, and everything just feels so dull. Nothing feels exciting anymore, does it? You know, it almost feels like the life and soul's been sucked out of this world. And all we do is just work. All we do is work. Every day feels the same. It's like we're stuck in a perpetual loop cycle.
We have two choices in this moment. Because I think even the most deeply asleep among us, in your heart of hearts, you know what we thought we were going to, that future is absolutely gone. So what are we going to do about it? We can sit here quietly and let this play out. Are we going to stand up and try to salvage something for our children and our children's children? And I will not be silent in this moment. Bravery is not the absence of fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It's doing what has to be done, even if your voice shakes, even if you're so scared you're not sure you can move one foot in front of the other. It is time to realize we do not have the life we had before, and it's not coming back.
You know, knowing that my time, my energy, my labor is clearly being used for what? To build and maintain and operate what kind of nation? And I'm forced to. You're forced to contribute to this vile, demonic, monstrous machine. Ultimately, we are powerless unless the whole system comes down. Ultimately, we are powerless unless the whole system comes down. Ultimately, we are powerless unless the whole system comes down.
Welcome everyone to Kaizen and the Pursuit of Truth, the alternative to alternative media, where truth is all that matters. And welcome to the introduction to my video book. I'm Jake Jackson, the author of this book, and I will be your guide through the true history of the American Empire that most people have never been taught and very few have bothered to learn. Because it's in learning this true history that you come to understand why the American dream has become a nightmare for most people in this country. More importantly, what you're going to learn is the roots of the problem, and then once you understand the roots of the problem, the solutions become self-evident. And so chapters 1 through 6 of this book are about revealing the true roots of the problem with the American system, and chapters 7 and 8 are going to show you a step-by-step plan of action that we the people will take to not only fully restore the promise of the American dream, but reclaim all the power back to we the people. And that's ultimately the goal of this book. Now, before we get into this, I wanted to give a quick shout out to this video channel on YouTube, A Homestead Journey. She's the one, I don't even know her name, I don't believe she's ever revealed her name on the channel, but she's the one who has basically gone to TikTok and gotten all these videos together and put them together in this format. So that opening montage I basically got from this channel here. So I just wanted to give a shout out to her. She makes excellent content. If you want to see what other people are feeling and experiencing around the United States, even the world, this is a great channel. She puts up content at least 5 times a week, showing how broken the system is from people on the ground, from the grassroots, saying what happened. And this video book is my answer to every single one of those people out there making these TikTok videos. This is what happened, and this is how we fix it. Okay, so again, go give her a follow, A Homestead Journey on YouTube. Excellent videos. Again, I appreciate everything she's done to bring the problems to awareness. And one more thing I wanted to say, because I've been putting content out there for 6 years now. There's nothing more frustrating for someone who spends hundreds to thousands of hours creating content for the world, only to have it ignored or have people click on it and literally spend 16 seconds watching it before they click away. You just saw a montage of people all over the country and the world expressing their frustration at how awful things are in this world. If you want to understand why, you have to learn why. You're going to have to take the time to learn. Now, I've spent 19 years of my life learning how the system works and why things got as bad as they are, going all the way back to April 21st, 2007. That was the day that I fully woke up to reality. And I've been working nonstop every day ever since. Not a day has gone by. And I just did the calculation. It's 6,925 days now that I have been working at least minimum 1 to 2 hours a day to read something, learn something, watch something, up to 16 hours a day when I'm in my creative mode and I'm making videos or whatever, writing. I've literally spent tens of thousands of hours of my life sacrificing and dedicated to this work. Because what I discovered on April 21st of 2007 shook me to the core. Because it was totally contrary to everything that I learned in college. As a finance major, the documentary I watched, America, Freedom to Fascism, taught me things that I was never taught in college. And I immediately thought, why wasn't I taught any of this in college? And that's when I realized that college is part of the machine. And it's simply meant to create more cogs, i.e. we the people, to send out in the world and keep the machine going. But the machine doesn't work for us. The system doesn't work for us. The system works for the people, as I will reveal in this book. Okay? There is a hierarchy in this world, and the hierarchy is running the system. And we the people keep the system running. And most people are completely oblivious to it. So this book is going to show you the system, how it works, who's controlling it all, and again, how we change the system. Because ultimately the system is the problem. So that said, I want to take you to a quote from Zig Ziglar. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. All right? If you're determined to learn, no one can stop you. And let's make that plural now. If we the people are not willing to learn how the American dream was turned into a nightmare, no one can help us. There's no savior coming to help us. We have to learn. We have to understand how the system works, why things are the way they are in the world today. Now, if we're determined to learn that, we can't be stopped. Once we get enough people who understand how the system works, we're not going to put up with it anymore. And we're going to follow the plan of action that I lay out in Chapter 8 of this video and completely change our future, completely change our reality. Take our power back, take our lives back, and fully restore the American dream. And that's what this book is all about. Now, if that's something that's important to you, you need to commit to watching and getting through this entire video book. Because this is the information that has the potential to change the world. Nothing else out there that you're going to spend time on, TV shows, sports, TikTok videos, nothing is going to change the world the way that this content will. Because this is a turnkey plan of action to actually, like that last guy said in that montage, ultimately we are powerless unless the whole system comes down. And I agree with that. But only if you look at it individually. Ultimately, as individuals, we are powerless in this system. But we are the only ones who have the power to bring the whole system down. And that's what I'm going to show you in this book. So, that said, hopefully now you want to move forward and go on this journey with me. But let's start with what is the American dream? And this was a term that was coined by James Truesdell Adams in this book, The Epic of America, that he published in 1931. It's a really good book because it doesn't just talk about the United States. It talks about all of the Americas. He talks about South America, Central America, all the countries, all the nations of the Americas. But what he does explain as the American dream is distinctly from the United States. So, what is the American dream? The American dream is the ideal that the United States is a land of opportunity. It proposes upward mobility, freedom, and equality for all who work hard and have the will to succeed. The phrase was coined in 1931 by James Truesdell Adams, who defined it as a social order. Okay, now I highlighted that in green because a social order is essentially a system. Now, the American dream at one point was a system which allowed for upward mobility and equality for all who work hard. All right? Now, he defined it as a social order where everyone can reach their fullest potential, recognized for who they are, regardless of birth or position. And I've talked about that many times in my work in the past, that the goal of my work, especially I talk about this in The Path to Freedom, is to create a superior model, a superior system, where everyone can achieve their full potential in life. So that's what my work has always been about. But that is the American dream. All right, now, obviously, as you saw from that opening montage, it may be harder to attain now because, as you'll see in the book, what happened was that social order was gradually hijacked and taken over and replaced with a new system. The roots of the American dream lie in the goals and aspirations of the first European settlers and colonizers. Most of these people came to the North American continent to escape tyranny, religious and political persecution, or poverty, and that's why they came. But look at where we are now. We literally are living in a system that, by its very definition, is tyrannical. If you speak out against certain religions or political ideologies, you're persecuted all over social media, especially if it's a certain nation in the Middle East that you're not allowed to criticize whatsoever. And poverty is clearly on the rise, as you will see as we go throughout this book. And it's all part of the design. But they came here to escape it, and now we're right back to what they escaped from. So the American dream is dead. In 1776, their reasons for coming were captured by the founders in the Declaration of Independence. And we're going to go over the Declaration of Independence in Chapter 8 and show you what their true intentions were and how we initiate the reclamation of our power. Because it's the most important document in American history, is the Declaration of Independence. Now, in his book, his work defines the past and future of the American dream, which according to Adams is not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of a social order in which each man and woman shall be able to attain their fullest stature, of which they are innately capable, and be recognized by others for what they are, regardless of the fortuitous circumstances of birth or position. So again, he didn't see it as the acquisition of material wealth. He saw it as a system, okay, that allowed every single person who's willing to work to achieve their full potential with no hindrances. And that's what's changed. That's why the American dream has become a nightmare, because that social order is no longer available. To Adams, the American dream is about aspiring to be one's best self and to rise above the station one was born into. It is not about simply acquiring wealth and material possessions. Now, despite his optimism about the United States as a land of opportunity, his book warns of the flaws in the American way of life. He calls out the dangers of unbridled capitalism and mass consumption. Now, let's look at the time that this book came out, 1931. He had just lived through the Roaring 20s. He saw what capitalism and consumerism did to the nation. He lived through the collapse, and now he's 2 years into the Great Depression. So he was operating from a position of knowing exactly what happened to the American dream almost 100 years ago. And now here we are again, repeating that exact same cycle. The worker, he wrote, gets into a treadmill in which he earns, not that he may enjoy, but that he may spend, in order that the owners of the factories may grow richer. And that's the world we live in today. I mean, that opening montage, that's why I played that opening montage, is to show people that we're just working to survive. We're not working to enjoy our life anymore. We're just working to keep this system going. And that's not the American dream. And we see a world now where a tiny percentage owns more than half the wealth of the world. And so the system is what has enabled that to happen. And so clearly, we need a new system. Because if the American dream is a social order, and a social order is a system, and the system has destroyed the American dream, we need a new system. And a lot of people fight me on that. So they say, well, we don't need any system at all. But people need a system, okay? We're just not going to have spontaneous order magically, right? People need structure. People need a system. But we're going to create a system that recognizes the individual as the sole holder of power. Because that's where power belongs, with the individual. Nobody has power to impose their will on anyone else in this world. All of that's an illusion, and we're going to talk about that. The book also cites the dangers to the intellectual worker who must adjust his or her work to the needs of business or mass consumption. The result of this accommodation, according to Adams, is to lower the quality of thought, as represented in newspapers and journals, to that of the least common denominator of the minds of the millions of consumers. And we're going to get into that in chapter 1, okay? How that happened and why they turned us into a nation of needs-based consumption to wants-based consumption, so that the capitalists could grow richer and richer and richer. And that system right there is the very root of the destruction of the American dream. His book calls out the devotion to the accumulation of wealth without regard for the good of society. And look at the world we live in today. A system that steadily increases the gulf between the ordinary man and the super rich, that permits the resources of society to be gathered into personal fortunes that afford their owners millions of income a year, with only the chance that here and there few may be moved to confer some of their surplus on the public in ways chosen wholly by themselves, is assuredly a wasteful and unjust system. It is perhaps as inimical to anything could be to the American dream. So what he was saying was that this corporatist model that brought about the Great Depression in 1929 is what destroyed the American dream. And where he talks about they may be moved to confer some of their surplus upon the public in ways chosen wholly by themselves. That's why they created the tax-free foundations, to make it look like they're philanthropic, to make it look like they care and they're giving back to society. But they only created them as a tax shelter so that they wouldn't be taxed on the wealth that they were creating. And that's all it is. It's all an illusion. It's all about the accumulation of wealth for a small percentage of society. And that system robs the people of the real wealth that they create. What Adams foresaw appears to have become reality in 21st century America. Consumerism and materialism abound, threatening the environment and the political structure. Intellectualism has become tribalized. And that's exactly what America has become. intellectualism has become tribalized. I mean, what we consider intellectualism is just, I've chosen my tribe, you've chosen your tribe, and we're going to fight about that because my tribe is better than your tribe. My beliefs are better than your beliefs. Instead of understanding that the system is what created the tribalism to keep us divided, so that we don't realize that it's a system itself that is exploiting us. In addition, it is becoming more and more difficult to attain the American dream for many people, including religious and ethnic minorities, women, and the poor. According to one study, 92% of children born in 1940 earned more money than their parents. However, only 50% of children born in the 80s have done so. So, in 2 generations, the American dream was cut in 2. Almost half the people are not earning more than their parents anymore. All right, sentiment among millennials, Gen Z, Gen X is captured in a 2020 opinion poll reflected these trends, indicating that 46, 52, and 53% of each group respectively felt that the American dream is attainable. So less than half the people out there feel that the American dream is attainable anymore. And watch out for this. Policy groups are working to improve the probability of upward mobility in the United States. All these policy groups are owned and controlled by the system. So you have to watch out for that because they're all non-governmental organizations and very few are actually working to restore upward mobility. And we're going to talk about that in this book. But I wanted to play a clip here real quick for you just to show you one woman's experience of what happened to her.
How much longer can you afford to live in your home?
1 month. I don't know what I'm going to do. Hope that I don't wake up tomorrow. I haven't been poor. I worked for 45 years. There is no American dream anymore. All it is survival.
And there you go. She worked her entire life. She can't afford to live in the home that she's lived in for years anymore. And it's all because of the system. The system is pushing everybody out. The system is built on greed, and it's built on the extraction of real wealth from the creators of the real wealth to essentially a parasite, predatory class that controls the whole system. Okay? So that's why the American dream has become a nightmare. Now let's look at one more quote from Edward Abbey, who said, "If America could be once again a nation of self-reliant farmers, craftsmen, hunters, ranchers, and artists, then the rich would have little power to dominate others, neither to serve nor to rule." That was the American dream. And what I'm going to show you in chapters 7 and 8 is how we restore a nation of self-reliance. Now, we're more than a nation of farmers, craftsmen, hunters, ranchers, and artists. Obviously, with technology, there's a lot of different paths that people can take in life as far as an occupation. But we have to restore a system which allows people to return to self-reliance so that the rich have little power to dominate us anymore. And so we need a new system. Not only a new social order, which James Truslow Adams defined as the American dream, but a new economic order, a new economics model as well, because they both work hand in hand. So that's what the American dream was, and that's what we need to restore. All right, because nobody wants to live in the world that they're bringing about. I can guarantee that, because I've done all the research on that. And if you know anything about Agenda 21, SDG 2030, and the plans for the future, you do not want to live in that world either. And that's what we need to avoid. And they plan on having that fully implemented by 2030. So we've got less than 4 years. I'm going to show you in Chapter 8 how we can change everything within months. We can do it this year. All we need is the numbers. Okay? Moving on. So the root of the problem, as I see it, is threefold. Okay? How did this system take hold and hijack the social order that was the American dream. Okay, number one, the system itself. Now, the American dream was founded on a social order that was hijacked by a new system, a parasitical system. Number two is the collective but false belief that the system is legitimate and the only possible way we can manage society. And that's really the biggest part of the problem. Because as you'll see in chapter 1, the system is controlled by a tiny, tiny percentage of people in this world. But they've used that system to create this false belief in the population of the world that this is the only way. And you just have to put up with it. Okay? It's a false belief, and there is a much superior way to manage society. And number three is the black pill majority of the truth community who focus solely on the problems. And this is something that's bothered me for years. When I first woke up, I probably strayed into that area of being black pilled, because once you wake up to reality and you realize that the world isn't at all that the way we were taught it was, we were told it was, and that it's a completely different reality, you do go to a dark place and you see the enormity of it all. But eventually you have to deal with it. Okay? And trying to create awareness is part of dealing with it. But the other part of dealing with it is saying, well, this is the situation. This is our reality. What can we do about it? And that's what I chose to do instead. So I talk about this a little bit in my Path to Freedom video series, about parts 3 and 4, the most powerful lesson everyone needs to learn, and the power of thought in manifesting positive change, where I talk about The Strangest Secret in the World by Earl Nightingale. And that strangest secret is that we become what we think about. And so I've been trying to tell the black-pilled sector of the truth community for 6 years now to stop talking about and obsessing on the problems. There is a solution. But as long as you focus on the problems, that's what we will become. Okay? So if we focus on the solutions, we will become the solutions. And so that's a very important video series that I have out there, which is the roadmap of getting to a better social order. But that's a big part of it, because I go on social media every day, and I go on YouTube, and I watch these videos. And 99% of people are focused on the problems and just talking about the problems. And what you're doing is you're taking that energy and you're feeding the problems. And you're going to bring those problems to fruition because you're not spending any time at all talking about a solution. Well, what can we actually do about this? And I actually wrote a blog about this back in 2022 called "The Skeptics and Black Pill Nihilists Are Hindering Evolution and Liberty. No solutions are possible if we only focus on the problems." I wrote this over 4 years ago, and then a year later I put it on my Substack, and I made an audio version so you can watch it, you can listen to it, you can read it. But again, it's something that I've had to deal with over and over and over again. It's one of the greatest sources of my frustration in trying to do this work, of showing people, hey, look, there is a better way. There is a solution. But as long as we're focused on the problems and you continue to reject the solution, you can't even bother to look at it, we'll never get there. We will never create the solution. So we need to focus on the solution. And there's another blog that I started writing. I never finished, I never published, but it's this one right here: red pill, blue pill, black pill, white pill. It's our personal choices in life that determine our reality and future. So this blog was going to be all about, at certain points of our life, we encounter information that's contrary to our long-held, programmed, and dogmatic beliefs. And at that point, we have a personal choice, like the fork in the road here. Do we take the blue pill and double down on our dogmatic beliefs, or do we open our mind and take the red pill and look at evidence that may change our perception of reality. And that's what being red-pilled is all about. And once you open up to a certain reality, like I did in 2007, that everything I knew about the financial world was all a lie. I mean, I'd started questioning it in 1992 when I was studying it in college, and it's the reason why I never did get into finance. I got into sales instead, but it was all confirmed in 2007 when I watched America Freedom to Fascism. So that was my red pill moment, and ever since then, I've gone down every rabbit hole possible, and I've taken every red pill possible out there. Most people, sadly, because of the ego, choose the blue pill, and they're going to stick with their program beliefs because the ego says there's no way you could possibly be wrong. So the key to changing the world, to determine our reality and future, is you have to have an open mind to challenging your beliefs and changing them, because there is information out there that contradicts every single one of your program beliefs. You just have to seek them, and you will be shown the truth. Now, once we've taken the red pill, we have another choice, and that's to take the black pill or the white pill. And sadly, once most people are red pilled, the majority of people take the black pill. And the black pill is that nihilistic, cynical view that this is too big, there's no way we can ever overcome it, and I'm just going to create awareness of the problems and continue black pilling more people, telling them that this world sucks, there's nothing we can do about it. And it's almost as if they do what they do just so that they can say, see, I told you so, you should have listened to me, when it all comes crashing down. And I'm saying, stop doing that. Take the white pill. Look at what we can do. Look at the power that we do have to change our future. And if we all focus on that, like I said at the beginning, if we're determined to learn the solution, no one can stop us. Okay? And that's the key. And I'm not the only one who feels this way. I've got a couple of other posts here from Joel Rafidi who sees it the same way that I do. He says, crazy how many people are so black-pilled and stuck in black and white thinking. No nuance, no grasp of the interplay between good and evil. Just endless projection of their unresolved shadows onto media archetypes while parroting their biases like they've cracked the code and get triggered the moment someone challenges their ideological worldview. Okay? And I'm going to share with you an interaction from earlier this year with someone I was calling out on stop it with this black pill nonsense and how they attacked me back. But I'm going to wait and show that to you till the end of the book, after you've seen the solutions, so that you can see what she was saying about me as opposed to actually looking at what I'm saying. And I'm going to prove to you that the black-pilled faction of the truth community is one of the major problems in the world, because they know the truth, but they're doing the wrong thing. They're just perpetuating the negativity. Maybe try stepping back, questioning yourself, and embracing the complexity of reality instead of becoming a caricature of certainty. And that's what this person did to me. And again, I'll share that with you in chapter 8, part 5. Once you've seen the solution and you know that, wow, yeah, I want to take the white pill because there is a solution. We do have the power to take back our world. He also made another post that I loved. The black pill community is perhaps the most programmed of all. To believe everything you observe is motivated by evil. To believe goodness doesn't stand a chance. To believe anything that provides hope is probably a psychological operation. And to refuse to let any semblance of light in is to be perfectly curated in the image of the very evil you claim to be at war with. And that's what I've been telling them. Like, you are part of the problem. Start focusing on the solution. And that's exactly that interaction I'm going to share with you actually said that, oh, if someone offers a solution, guaranteed it's going to be a psyop. It's going to be controlled opposition. So if someone like me, who actually cares and who's dedicated his life to providing a solution comes out with a solution in a video book like this, the black-pilled faction of the truth community is going to attack me as some kind of controlled opposition. I already know what's going to happen because of this. The way that Joe Rafiti sees it, the way that I see it, is because they don't see the nuances. They don't understand how much power we really have. And again, that's a frustration. But I chose, after 3 years of doing this, to take the white pill. And what I did is, this all came out of frustration with my family, primarily. Just being ignored, being ostracized. I would give them documentaries. I say, watch this, let's talk about it. And they couldn't even be bothered to watch them. And so I sat down to write a letter to my family out of frustration. And when it got to 30 pages, I said, this is bigger than just my family. This is information that the whole world needs to hear. And so on June 10th of 2010, when I sat down to write that letter, that actually became what would become this book that I worked on for 10 years, called The Great Awakening. And the subtitle would become Understanding the Vital Keys to Freeing Humanity from Debt Slavery, Illegitimate Authority, and Universal Deceit. And that right there defines the system that we live in. The system that hijacked the social order that enabled the American dream. Because it's a system based on debt slavery. It's a system run by illegitimate authority that uses universal deceit to maintain its legitimacy. By lying and gaslighting the public into them believing that, well, this is the only thing we have. We just have to deal with it. And that's what most of the people in the black pill part of the truth community are trying to do. They're trying to like duck out of the way so they don't get hurt, so they don't get hurt too bad when it all comes crashing down. And I'm saying, let's avoid the crash. Let's stop it before it all comes crashing down and transition into a new model that empowers we the people, instead of just being so negative about everything and saying that the evil is too powerful. Because ultimately, as you'll see, goodness is more powerful than evil. And we have the numbers to do it. So I worked on that for 10 years. And over those 10 years, as I continued to learn things to put into the book, it actually got so big, I've got over 1,000 pages of notes here, handwritten notes, that it became a trilogy about the Trinity, about human beings, because we're all mind, body, and soul. And so that's what I was working on for all these years. Tens of thousands of hours went into creating a book trilogy that I ultimately never published. Because in 2019, I was listening to an interview with Gary Vaynerchuk, and he said, if you don't have a massive following, don't even think about publishing a book, because you're not going to sell a damn thing. He said, you have to create the following first. And then, if you want to write a book, you'll have a market to sell it to. But, and I took that to heart. I said, you know, he's probably right. It's hard enough to get people to awaken to reality that they don't want to, because they are blue-pilled and they don't want to challenge their beliefs, and their egos are going to protect them. So in 2019, what I did was I took all of this knowledge and I decided that, let me see if I can monetize it. And so I created a business in 2019 called Living Well VNL LLC, which is Living Well Under Natural Law. And my motto is truth is all that matters, because ultimately that is. If you act in any way not aligned with truth, you're more than likely going to suffer negative consequence. So aligning with truth is the path to fixing everything in the world. All right? The two questions I pose are we living life at our full potential? Is humanity thriving or merely surviving? And that relates to the American dream. And so what I did was I took my book trilogy and I merged it into the purpose of this business. Reclaim the mind, revitalize your body, and reawaken your soul. Okay, mind, body, and soul. And that's what my business is all about. And before I was able to launch it on March 11th of 2020, we had the greatest PSYOP in human history. And that changed everything. Because what I understood to be just nothing but pure propaganda and 2 weeks to flatten the curve was going to last much longer than 2 weeks. And I'll get into that in the book later on. But I immediately put the business on the back burner and I started blogging about all of this, everything that was going on, everything that I understood. And I went from 37 friends and followers on Facebook to over 5,000 within a couple months. And finally, for the first time in my life, I realized that my words, my voice, my knowledge is resonating with people. I said, maybe there's hope. Maybe there's some real hope in this world. And so what I did was I finally went back and I officially launched the business on the 10th anniversary of the day that I sat down to write that letter and begin the book. And on June 10th of 2020, I launched Living Well, VNL, LLC. But what I also did was I put it on the back burner. I never promoted it. I never did any videos, nothing. Because what I saw at that point, 3 months into the greatest PSYOP in world history, was that we need to change the system. But anyway, I put that on the back burner, and on June 10th of 2020, I started working on this website called the Freedom Project 2020, whose main goal is to restore individual sovereignty worldwide. Because I saw that it was a systemic problem and that we need to change the system. And so that's what the Freedom Project 2020 was born out of. And so now we've got, this is the purpose of all my work, helping people reclaim their mind, revitalize their body, reawaken their soul, and restore individual sovereignty. 4 R's. That's what my work is all about. Okay? Now, just from the first page, one believes things because one has been conditioned to believe them. However, facts do not cease to exist because they are ignored. And that's Aldous Huxley. And that's going back to that threefold problem with the world as we see it today. Most people believe things just because they're conditioned to believe them. Objective reality is always going to be out there. And if we act against it, we're going to be hurt. And if all of society acts against it, society is going to crumble and decay. And that's exactly where we are in the world today. The entire world has been deceived at a level never before seen in history. Government and media are the primary tools of this deception. The information on this website is the antidote. The world will be made free only when it seeks, knows, accepts, and acts on the truth. So that's what the Freedom Project 2020 is all about. So, what started in 2007 that prompted me to begin 3 years of research, that culminated in me creating this book, has ultimately become all of this work that I've created. So this was what I was working on, never published it, but out of it came 2 websites, a bunch of video series. So we've got Manifesting a New Reality, which is a vision for a superior social order, which would restore the American dream. The Path to Freedom, which is the roadmap. This is how we get there. Creating a Natural Law Republic, which is the blueprint, the structure for a new social order. I've got my foundational video series, which is also called Reclaiming the Mind, where I show how the education system was hijacked and how to restore critical thinking. I've also got a video series about revitalizing the body, my Optimal Health video series, which I finished up last year. I've got Emancipation Proclamation 2.022, which is highlighting what it takes to create a new social order. I've written extensive blogs. I've got my Substack out there. So all of this knowledge has turned into all of this creation. And it's out there for free. So anybody can go and see how we fix the problem. You can be red-pilled and you can be white-pilled by simply going through my extensive body of work here. But ultimately, what that book became is this video book that you're watching right here. The whole truth about how the American dream became a nightmare. And the only way we the people will restore its full promise once again. So, that's where we are. Today, I'm recording this is April 1st, 2026. And this is no April Fool's joke. This is real. This is our reality that we're living in. And something needs to be done. We don't need to be desperate. We don't need to riot or protest or anything. We just need to focus. We need to understand how the system works and the power that we have to change it outside of the system. Because everyone's trying to fix it within the system, and it's never going to work. And I explain that in the book. I explain it in my work. So, why this video book? And why now? Why didn't you just publish a book, Jake? Why didn't you just finish that first book or turn this into a book that we can go buy and read? Well, I know that we live in a digital age. Very few people can be bothered to read anymore. And I need this information to get out to as many people as possible. We live in a world where everybody is connected to digital media. And by turning this into a video book, I have access to most of the world's population. So that's why it's a video book. Now, if you want to understand further why I chose to make it a video book, I've got a quick 20-second clip that we're going to look at.
Do you love to learn, but every time you try to read, you end up like this? Now you can read as easily as if you were watching a movie.
You'll learn faster, retain information longer, and enjoy yourself in the process.
That's because research shows that visual information is processed in as little as 13 milliseconds.
So that's why I'm doing a video book, because it's an easier way to learn. It's more interactive. I can show you things that you can't get in a published book. You know, there's not that little number at the end of a sentence where you have to go to the back of the book to find the source, and then if you want to look at the actual source, you have to go to find the source. It's a hassle. Most people don't like reading anymore. So in a video book format, I'm able to show you the sources of the information directly. You're able to see things that you can't see. I'm able to share video, PDFs, all different types of media that we'll be bringing into this video book. So while it is a book in every sense of the word, it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. It's got antagonists, it's got protagonists, it's got a story arc. It also has a happy ending. Okay, so it is a book in every sense of the word. It tells a story of how the American dream was hijacked and turned into a nightmare, and ultimately how we reclaim it, fix it, and restore it. Okay, that's what this book is all about. So just expanding a little bit more on video. Video book concept combines the use of traditional reading materials with the dynamic and engaging properties inherent in video content. Video books aid comprehension by readers. So it's an easier way for people to understand the concepts. With video books, learners' sense of sight and hearing can be engaged, which overrides limited textual ones, and videos make learning more intuitive and enjoyable than text, especially when expressing complex ideas. So, again, the whole idea is to engage the mind in more ways than just black and white text or an audiobook where you listen, right? This combines the best of reading, the best of audio, and the best of visual to give you the full experience of learning something in a way that you will learn it more effectively. And while most video books are published books that have been converted into video, I honestly think that this is the first video book ever published solely to be a video book. I'm creating this as a video book from the get-go because this is what I feel will be the most effective way to reach the most people as quickly as possible and to create the momentum we need to ultimately change the system and restore the American dream. And this all started, honestly, I had no plans on making this year. When this year started, I was working on a 10-minute video series to, again, promote my business and wake people up to the rest of my work. And then everything changed on January 7th with the Renee Good shooting. And I decided I'll put that on hold like I do with everything else. And I'm going to make a short 10-minute video called The Empirical Evidence of Premeditated Use of Deadly Force and the Criminal Administration Defending It. And what happened changed everything. Because as I started posting on Facebook my opinions about what really happened on that day, I was attacked by people who I never thought would attack me. I was attacked by people who stood shoulder to shoulder with me during COVID in opposing the tyrannical overreach of government from 2020 to 2023. And now all of a sudden they're turning on me. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? I thought you were against tyranny. But it's okay if your guy is doing it. Make that make sense. And so I kept doubling down because I knew I was in the right. And I knew what I saw. And we were being gaslit by the media and lied to by the establishment. And so that 10-minute video turned into the whole truth about the Renee Good shooting nobody is talking about and how we peacefully end this insanity. And I was hoping to keep that to maybe under an hour. You know, make a longer form video and explain the empirical evidence of how it was premeditated, but expand on what was happening to me as well. And then a week later, we had the Alex Preddy thing. And the whole thing expanded again. It was going to be a longer video. Renee Good, Alex Preddy, ICE mercenaries, the whole truth about America and how we peacefully fix this mess. So this 10-minute video kept expanding. And I kept on adding parts that needed to be added to show people why they were attacking me, where their perception of reality was coming from, how it all happened. And so I kept adding parts to the video. And I finally just decided, after about working on it for a month, I said, this is a book. I just need to tell the whole story. And so I just committed to finishing it. And that's ultimately what became this free video book that reveals how America was broken and how we the people can fix everything. And it's now 8 chapters. Again, the first 6 tell what happened, how we got here, why people believe the things they believe, why they act the way they act, especially on social media, who's behind it, how they hijacked the American dream and the social order. So it's all here. And then I said, well, you know, obviously we need to show the solution. Because one thing I learned a long time ago that the black-pilled nihilists in the truth community don't understand is that people don't want to hear their problems if you can't offer them a solution to that problem in the same breath. Okay? People are already overburdened, and that's one of the reasons that most people choose the blue pill, is they have enough problems. They don't want to hear any more. Unless you can give them a solution, don't tell me about the problem. So that's what this book is. It's revealing the whole thing, the whole truth about how the American dream became a nightmare. But more importantly, a plan of action that I've been working on for 16 years now to show people how we fix it. Now, many people will say, still, that's a pretty big claim, Jake. Why should anyone out there trust me to give you the whole truth and the only viable solution to our problems? And, you know, when I tell people there's a solution, I get attacked by the black pill nihilists. And it blows my mind the way people act. But again, I'm going to show you why I understand the way they act in chapter 1. Because I've done the research. I understand why you're attacking me. I'm trying to show you. But anyway, I actually wrote a blog a couple years ago about this, which is logically, what options do we really have? Are we doomed to continue repeating history? And that was from, ironically, I realized this when I was putting this video book together. It was 16 years to the date that I woke up to reality. The night that I stumbled across America, Freedom, and Fascism, April 21st, 2007, and I wrote this blog 16 years to the date later. After 16 years and well over 40,000 hours of research and work. Most people solutions I show in this video, this blog, it's a blog that I wrote and then I did an audio version of it, are dead ends because they don't ultimately end up in dissolving the system. Like that guy said in the opening montage, ultimately we are powerless unless the whole system comes down. And all these things I talk about, there's seven ways, 7 options that I talk about in this blog. 6 of them are dead ends. And these are the ones that all the black pill nihilists talk about all the time on social media. I said, no, there's only one way. There is only one way to freedom. And once you get through this whole video book, you will understand that it is the only way. It's logical, it's peaceful, and it's simple. Everything else is a dead end. And as author of this book, what I like to do in my work is to look at definitions and etymology of words to show that I do have the authority to speak on this topic because of the tens of thousands of hours of my life that I've dedicated to understanding. So, as author of this book, let's take a look at that word. What is an author? It's a creator, one who brings about, one who makes or creates someone or something, right? A progenitor, a builder, a founder, trustworthy writer, authority, historian, performer, doer, responsible person, teacher, one who causes to grow. And that's what I'm doing. I'm creating a new social order. Based on what the American dream was supposed to be, I show you where it went off the rails, and I show you how we restore it. So I hope to grow a movement that wants to restore the American dream. I'm building something. I created a whole new roadmap, a new vision, everything. Source of authoritative information or opinion, authority. So let's take a look at authority. Authoritative book that settles an argument. And that's what this book is. It's an authoritative book that settles the argument of what happened to the American dream. How do we fix it? That's the argument that we're going to settle in this book. So it's an invention, advice, opinion, influence, command, leader. The spelling was changed from auctor to author based on the French meaning of authentic. So as opposed to a world that's growing up around us that we're being invaded by of artificial intelligence, what you're going to get in this book is 19 years of knowledge that's come from due diligence and someone who cares about learning the truth. So what this is based on authentic intelligence. All right, this isn't artificial. This is something that took human effort to create. And so that's where I get the authority to say that this is the only viable solution. And again, once you get through all 6 chapters and you get to chapter 7, we start talking about the solutions, you will understand that you're right, Jake. And there's already a lot of people out there who've gone through my work who realize that this is the only way forward. Okay? And by the time you're done with the book, you're going to understand all of it. So ultimately, my purpose and all the work that I've done for the last 19 years and in creating this book over the last 3 months is fourfold. Number 1, shattering the false beliefs in the minds of millions worldwide, because it's the belief in the system that enables and empowers it to remain in place. Okay, so that's number 1. We have to shatter the false beliefs. That's what chapters 1 through 6 are all about. Nobody will be able to get through chapters 1 through 6 and believe in the system at all anymore. No semblance whatsoever that we will ever be free in this system once you get through chapter 6. Number 2, proposing a superior model for a new social order which restores all power back to the individual. And it will also restore the American dream. Okay, so I'm going to show you how the current model hijacked the American dream, turned it into a nightmare, and why we can't fix it. Okay, we need a new model. That's number 2. Number 3, converting the black pill nihilists into white pill problem solvers, hopefully reaching out to my fellow travelers and saying, look, I've been asking you for 6 years now. Please stop focusing on the problems. You're only perpetuating them. You're giving them power. You're manifesting that reality by focusing on it. Focus on the solution and we will create it. We will end the tyranny. We will end the insanity. Okay? And ultimately, dissolving the current system. And that's the goal. So, like every book, in the beginning, there's an introduction, a preface, whatever, and that's what I've just gone through here. And then there's the chapters that you look through and see what's coming. So what we're going to do here real quick is we're going to go through the chapters of the book to show you what's coming so that you know what to look for and hopefully get excited about what you're going to be learning. Okay, so chapter 1 is Fabian Socialism, the use of propaganda and perception management to control groupthink dumb nodes on a variety of hive mind networks. And that's a mouthful, and a lot of people that it'll probably go right over your head. But by the time you're done with chapter 1, you'll understand exactly what all of that means. Because chapter 1 is what's going to solve the problem of that first thing we just talked about, which is shattering the belief in the minds of millions. Chapter 1 is going to show you why they believe what they believe. But chapter 1, it got too long, so I broke it down into 3 sub-chapters to make the videos a little bit shorter. So part 1 is the 7 sentences published a century ago that reveal exactly why the world is the way it is today and why people act the way they do, especially on social media. Part 2 is who are they and what kind of people and organizations comprise this invisible government that we talk about in part 1. Part 3, if Fabian socialism is a major part of the invisible government influencing politics, what is the entity influencing the corporate side of the fascist plutocracy ruling the world? Okay, so by the time you're done with chapter 1, you will understand why people believe what they believe and who has been influencing them to believe this for their entire lives, and why society is the way it is today. Chapter 1 is vitally important, and it's why I started with this information in chapter 1. Chapter 2 is going to be that first 10-minute video that I started this entire video book with. Empirical evidence of premeditated use of deadly force in the criminal system defending it. Because chapter 1 grew out of what I saw coming from the administration, which was the use of propaganda to manipulate the public opinion. So that's where this 10-minute video, that's where this whole thing started growing and why chapter 1 started. And that was going to be that second video. But I had to add it in here just to show this is how propaganda works. Chapter 3, claims of fakery, staging, crisis actors, and the conspiratorial hive mind polluting the truth community. And I'm going to talk about all those people who say everything is fake. And again, that goes back to that quote. There are subtle nuances in everything out there. Not everything is fake. Not everything is staged. Some things are just the result of other things going on in the world. Okay, let's just leave it at that. I'll explain it all in chapter 3. Chapter 4. What is law? What is the difference between legal and lawful and positive versus natural law? And one of the things that I was being attacked about from the Renee Good shooting was, oh, but these people are here illegal and ICE is just doing what they're told to do, and they just really have no idea the difference between what is right, what is wrong, legal, lawful, and I'm going to explain it all in chapter 4. Chapter 5. The restoration of critical thinking to destroy hive mind and groupthink mentality. So you can see how this is all building on each chapter. As the story unfolds, we're getting more pieces of the puzzle of why the world is the way it is today. In chapter 5, we're going to start talking about solutions. Okay? This is how we restore. This is how we undo the damage that's been done by the propagandists. And that's what chapter 5 is about. Chapter 6, the democracy deception and why this ideology is so deeply ingrained into public consciousness. And we're going to talk about what they've done is they've taken the true meaning of a word, an ideology, and they've done this with many things, and inverted it, and made you believe that democracy is one thing that it's not. And I'm going to show you in chapter 8 what democracy really is. But chapter 6 is about showing you how what they sell you as democracy is actually your cage, is actually the trap. And so everyone out there talking about democracy, they really don't know what they're talking about because they're just perpetuating what they've been propagandized to believe is democracy when it's not democracy at all. Okay? So that's chapter 6. Chapter 7, hacking at the branches of evil versus striking the root. 3 powerful quotes which are the vital keys to transforming the current human condition. And this is where we start talking about the solutions, because these 3 quotes are what have driven me in my work for years in understanding why focusing on the problem will never get us to where we need to be and what needs to be done to actually create a solution, to actually implement a solution. So that's chapter 7. And then we get to the pièce de résistance, chapter 8. The unbelievably simple, most logical, peaceful, and nonviolent solution to ending all of this insanity. And this is what I've been working on for 16 years. You know, ever since I started working on the book. There is a simple solution to all of this. And it's taken me years to come up with this, of study, of testing, of everything. But chapter 8 is a big one, because we have to understand all the parts of the puzzle. By the time you get here, you'll understand why the world is the way it is. Okay? And you'll have a realization of the root of the problem. And once you have an understanding of the realization of that root, for most people who have restored their critical thinking that we talk about in chapter 5, the solutions do become self-evident. So that's why I lay out the solutions. But this one's actually broken down into 5 parts. So chapter 8, part 1 is the remedy was given to us in the very document that founded the American Republic 250 years ago. And we're going to talk about the Declaration of Independence and how that's one of the primary keys to dissolving the current system. Part 2, the fatal flaws of the current Constitution of the United States of America. And I'm going to show you where our current Constitution, after you get through those first 6 chapters, literally goes off the rails after the first sentence. And why it's illegitimate. It has no authority. I'm going to explain that to you in part 2 here. Part 3, the superior new model, which once instituted by the sheer will of we the people, would immediately render the current model obsolete. And this is where I show you how we put all the pieces together. I show you the new model that once we hit critical mass, we have the power to change everything. by simply signing 3 documents. That's how simple this is. And again, you're not going to believe how simple the solution is. But Chapter 8 is going to lay it all out and just show you how much power we truly do have. Part 4. A sane economic model fully aligned with natural law, which would organically restore all wealth back to we the people. As we've talked about in this introduction, the American dream, a big part of the American dream, is the economic model that enables people to fulfill their true purpose in life. But the economic model we're operating under is a parasitical model. And what I'm going to show you is a sane economic model that truly does restore all wealth back to we the people. Because to have a new social order, you have to implement a new economic model for that new social order to work the way it's intended to work. So these two go hand in hand as part of reclaiming our power. And then part 5 is going to wrap it all up. What needs to be done to bring this vision of reality to fruition, and what can you do to help in this cause for human emancipation from the system? Okay? And that's it. That's the whole book. But it takes you from beginning to end. You're going to understand why the world is the way it is today, why people act the way they do, how it all happened, how we reclaim the mind, and how we restore the American dream. Okay? It's all here. It's a comprehensive plan of action, turnkey, that all we need is the numbers to plug into, and we will do it. We will change the world. There's no way we can be stopped. As long as people are willing to learn, there's nothing that can stop us. So I wanted to end this video with that final clip from The Matrix. But then I started thinking, well, now it's, if I do that, it'll get copyright claimed and it'll get buried and the algorithm will, and so I'm not going to play the video clip. Instead, I'm going to read you the words, okay, and how they relate to my work. Because it's a powerful message to the world. And it comes, if you've seen the movie, obviously, right after Trinity kisses Neo, brings him back to life, and you hear a phone ring. It fades to black and you hear a phone ring. And Neo picks up the phone, right? And this is what he says. I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. And he's talking to the Matrix. He's talking to the controllers of the system. All right? This is their greatest fear, is that we wake up to the reality of the system that we're living in. Okay? They're afraid of change. They're afraid of us. That's why they do everything they do to keep us divided. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. And that's what this book is all about. I don't know the future. I don't know how this ends. I know how it will end if we get enough people to watch this entire book, to build the numbers we need. But I'm not here to tell you that. I'm here to tell you this is how it begins. All right? If you're frustrated with the system, if you're fed up with the way that the world is running, if you're fed up with leadership, the administration, with what the United States has done to the world, this is the book for you. This is how it begins. It's not a revolution. Okay? This is a restoration. We're restoring the American dream. We're restoring power back to the people. We're restoring a sane economic model. We're restoring common sense. We're restoring the full intent of the founders of this country. Okay? This isn't a revolution. This is a restoration. I'm going to hang up this phone. I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. Okay? I'm going to finish this introduction. I'm going to take you to chapter 1. And I'm going to start showing you what they don't want you to see. Because you have to understand how the system works. if you want to overcome it. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. And that's what I'm going to show you. Okay, this is a world in which we have dissolved the system without the predatory parasite class. All right? A world without rules and controls. Let's say a world without rulers and controllers. Right? Because we're going to take back control of our own lives. We're going to rule our own lives. And the rules are going to be defined by natural law. A world without borders or boundaries. You'll be able to travel anywhere you want in the world without permission. All right? You'll be able to go and live wherever you want without permission. All you have to do is decide you want to be part of a community or a nation, and you will sign their contracts. And you'll see how that all works in Chapter 8. A world where anything is possible. A world where every single human being is able to achieve their full potential in life. Because we have now implemented a system which enables that. And we've dissolved the one that destroyed it. That enslaved us. And we're here to free ourselves. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you. So this is the information that you need. I'm showing you the system, showing you how it works, who's behind it, and I'm showing you how we dissolve it, how we take our power back. It's up to you, okay? I can't change it. I can only give you the ideas. And I've spent 19 years of my life now working on this for no pay. Not a single person has paid me. I mean, I have gotten a couple of subscribers here and there, but, you know, nothing I can live off of. You know, I mean, there's a handful of people that appreciate my work, but if I want to continue doing this, I'm going to need help from a lot more people. Let's put it that way. I'm going to talk about that in Chapter 8, but if you do want to support me after the introduction, you can go to my Substack and subscribe to me for 10 cents a day on an annual subscription for $36. But again, the ultimate goal of all my work is system failure. We have to bring about an end to the system if we ever hope to have power in this world again. And that's why I chose that last clip in the montage as the last one. And I repeated it 3 times. Ultimately, we are powerless unless the whole system comes down. And that's what this book is about. That's what the intention of this book is. System failure. And replacing it with one that works for we the people. So that's it. Now, just real quick, how to watch this video book. Ideally, you want to watch it from beginning to end and learn as the story unfolds. If you're someone who believes you know how the system works already and you really don't want to go through chapters 1 through 6, I say go straight to chapter 7 and 8 and see the solutions and then come back and watch the rest. But chapter 7 and 8, I mean, chapter 1 really shows you why the world is the way it is. That's pretty important. Chapter 7 and 8 are about the solutions. So if you just want to see what the solutions are, if you want to go straight there, go ahead. Watch 7 and 8 first. I find it sad. I look at the analytics of my videos, and on average, only 12% of people actually get through them. More than half are clicking away within 30 seconds. And we're not going to change the world that way. All right? If you can't be bothered to watch information from someone who has dedicated his life to sharing this, who has spent tens of thousands of hours learning something that he's distilling and condensing down for you to watching easy to consume content that, yeah, sorry, it's longer than a TikTok video. You can go back to doom scrolling Facebook, or you can actually learn how we fix all the problems that you're doom scrolling about. TikTok is not going to change the world. Facebook is not going to change the world. What's going to change the world is people actually understanding how it works, what the Achilles heel is, and changing the system. Okay? So, ideally, you'll watch the whole thing. If you just want to see the solutions, go to chapter 7 and 8, because ultimately that's what everyone here is for. And again, number 3, commit to taking the time necessary to get through the entire presentation, because the entire presentation will give you the full picture. You don't get a puzzle and start working on it and put a couple pieces together and quit. All right? If you want to see the full picture, you have to take the time to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. And that's what this book is. It's a book showing you all the pieces of the puzzle that form this system, that create this false reality that we live in. And ultimately, once you see the big picture, you see that the solution is clear as day. It's self-evident. So, I'm going to leave you with one more quote from Wilhelm Reich. And this is a man who, another brilliant mind from the 20th century that was destroyed by the system. Just like Tesla was. Just like Royal Raymond Rife was. Just like many of the great minds of the 20th century that were destroyed because they challenged the system. MLK, JFK, RFK, Malcolm X, John Lennon, all the people who spoke out against the system. I may be taken out because of this work. I don't know. I don't want to. I want to live in the new world that I'm hoping to create. But doing this work is, I understand I'm putting my life at risk. But I plan to live to 144 years old. I plan to live to the year 2112. And if you know, you know. But this quote from Wilhelm Reich is powerful. It's from his book, The Mass Psychology of Fascism, which came out 2 years after The Epic of America. And James Trussell Adams' definition of the American dream. And he saw what was happening in the world, the rise of Nazism in Germany. And this is what he said. He said, if the psychic energies, and think about this, think about the energy that you put into the bread and circuses in the world. Your sports, the watching a movie, consuming any media, scrolling through Facebook, triggering that dopamine hit, right? If you took that psychic energy that just wastes your time, if the psychic energies of the average mass of people watching a football game or a musical comedy could be diverted into the rational channels of a freedom movement, which is what this is, they would be invincible. And that's what I've been telling you all this time. If you choose the white pill instead, and you focus on the solution, we're going to create an entirely new world. We're invincible. We just need the people. We need the numbers. What we needed all along was a plan of action. We needed something other than the false left-right political paradigm. And now you have it. It's this book. This book will tell you everything you need to know about how we free humanity and how we fix the world and how we dissolve the system. So, that said, this was a little bit longer than I had hoped it would be, but hopefully you're excited to dig into the book now, get through the whole thing, and become part of a movement that is going to change our future. Because this is it. This is what it's going to take. And once you get to chapter 8 and you see how simple it is, you'll be like, why didn't someone think of this earlier? Because ultimately we have all the power. I'm going to show you that in this book. So, thank you again for your time, and follow me now to chapter 1, Fabian Socialism, the use of propaganda and perception management to control groupthink, dumb nodes on a variety of high-mind networks. And we're going to start with those 7 sentences that reveal exactly why the world is the way it is today. Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you over there. Bye-bye.